Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. My name is Jim Schubert, and I am your headmaster. I'm very excited today to welcome Hal Soden from Oliver L.E. Soden Agency and John B. Wright Agency. We are going to talk a little bit about how to position a multi-generational agency to grow in the 21st century. Hal is a principal and risk management advisor at Oliver L.E. Soden Agency and John B. Wright Agency. He provides property and casualty consulting and risk management services for mid-sized corporate, commercial, and nonprofit clients. He specializes in reducing risk and insurance costs using a proprietary risk management process called SAFE 365 written action plans to identify goals, coordinating strategies to prevent injuries, improving safety and claims management systems, and monitoring progress on identified goals. Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. Hal, how's it going, my friend?
Thank you. It's going very well. How you doing, Jim?
I am doing well, sir. Almost melting here. As I told you before got on air, I'm in Rhode Island, and we don't have air conditioning up here. And this was the day I was dreading. It's finally 90 degrees outside. You look nice and cool, my friend.
I am. Yeah, I'm cool. We do have the air conditioning on here, so
yeah. Well, God bless you. I've got a window unit over here that's like probably just about as old as I am, and I'm not even sure if it's actually blowing cold air, but it's a breeze.
Yeah. So. I hear you.
It's all good. We were talking just a second ago about outsourcing right before we got on air, and you guys do a little bit of outsourcing, right?
Yeah, we do a little bit.
What kinds of things do you have going on there?
So we have a VA, a virtual assistant, to help with some of our processing type work. That's probably one thing that we do with outsourcing. We not really heavy in that yet. I think, like I told you, because we really focus on the middle market. But I think as we look to kind of develop a small business unit, we'll probably utilize that a lot more to help us with a lot of that real heavy process work.
Yeah. And I'm hearing more and more people say that they are using VAs or outsourced companies to handle that kind of thing. We use Marblebox, who is one of the partners of this show, and they essentially act as our virtual insurance processing team. And we literally, I think Monday we're probably going to be asking them to add a second employee to the mix because they've been processing so much on the personal line side for us, and it's helped tremendously. And especially at a time when we lost. We were down an employee essentially, and we needed the extra help, and thank goodness we had already put in the systems and processes for it, but these guys make it super easy. So anybody out there that's looking for help on that, certainly look to Marblebox for that. But how I was fascinated and kind of blown away when you told me that you are a fourth generation owner.
Yes, I'm a fourth generation owner. My great-grandfather started the agency in 1925.
Wow.
And my grandfather was in it, and my father and my uncle, and now my cousin and I. My father is still working with us, and we kind of run the agency now.
It's a family affair.
It is. Yeah. There's always challenges, but it's worked for us,
Oh, yeah. I love, well, first of all, your great-grandfather's name is the same name as my son. My son is Oliver, so I love that.
Oh, really? I have a son, Oliver, as well, too, believe it or not.
Do you? Oh, no. That's hilarious.
Yeah, my son's name is Oliver. And actually, people were surprised. I don't know why that I named my son Oliver. Because there's actually not, there's an Oliver a couple generations back, but there's not any other Olivers in our generation, of my family at least. So
yeah. It's a great old name that we're carrying forward, isn't it?
Yes, I know it is.
I love it. You were telling me a little story right beforehand about some old footage you found, and I think from a branding and marketing perspective, I love this one. Can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, sure. So one thing I didn't mention is my grandfather, my great grandfather, actually played piano in silent movies, and he was a very good piano player. It was one of his sort of side things. And I'm sure that had something to do with how he put a commercial together. We have a actual commercial, a video commercial from the 1930s, and it's it's a car that's all smashed up, and it says, "Before this happens to you," it's on the screen,
Yeah.
call Oliver Ellie Soden. It just shows him walking out his door, and then it kind of runs into my grandmother in a burning house, and then sort of a commercial for a fire department. So little, I'm not sure where one begins and the next starts, but it's pretty cool. We've actually shared it, on social media a few times, and it always gets. I'd say that probably gets more engagement than anything else because people are just like, "What? What is this? How do you have this?" And
That's awesome.
so, yeah.
I love it. I love the co-branding too. It's like insurance and fire department. Let's work together.
Right. Well, he was also the fire chief too. So
yeah. Well, and insurance was a lot different back then, right? If you didn't have the fire mark on your door, they might not come and put it out. So it's a good reason to co-brand. How we're talking about like fourth generation. There's a lot that happens in that many generations. We're in the 21st century. Things are done a lot differently now. How are you guys positioning yourself to grow in the 21st century?
Sure. So, it's funny in the beginning of when I started, I've been doing this about, I guess, maybe, I don't know, somewhere between 15, 17 years, something like that. And the beginning, we were very, I guess you'd say, analog. We had a management system, and we didn't have a website. That was actually my first thing, is to get us a website. But I quickly realized we didn't have very many carriers either. We had pretty much one commercial carrier and a couple personal lines carriers, and the personal line carriers weren't competitive. So it was like, very difficult to write business. So I just kind of went out and kind of by, sort of forced to go out and find the kind of business that carrier wanted. And it kind of led me into larger and larger business. And so in the beginning, I almost sort of, did, we did well in spite of the fact that we weren't really evolving that well. The first couple of years, we, wrote some decent business. But what really sort of kind of helped us is when we actually dealt with a business called Advanced Automation, maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. They're not around anymore. Although I think, one of them does some consulting work, and they kind of really helped us automate things. We got a website that would kind of help us with this and that, and, certificate management, and really more stuff to help our clients than really to get us, marketing. We're still kind of marketing sort of an old fashioned way. But what's really helped us in the last couple of years is, we've really plugged into email marketing, automated, sort of marketing that supports our quest for sort of the middle market business. Yeah. And most recently, we've made an investment in Salesforce because that integrates nicely with our management system. And we're kind of using that to take us to the next level. But we still do things, we still knock on doors. We do certain things old fashioned ways. I'd say most of our business is still by introduction. I'd say referral, but it's more like an active pursuit of a client and asking somebody to introduce them to us, as opposed to just kind of sitting and waiting for somebody to refer business to you, because that tends to be not as good.
That makes sense. And I mean, this is a human driven business, and that kind of personal interaction is that will never go away. I don't think in this business.
No, I think for sure. I think you're right. I think still some of our largest businesses are stuff we've knocked on the door and walked in,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tell me about Safe 365. I'm curious about that. It's a unique. I've never heard of that. What is that?
Sure. So Safe 365 is originally, it was kind of a riff off of our sort of "You're safe with Soden" or "Be safe with Soden" was something that we would kind of have as a tagline. And we have some pretty, a lot of the way that we get business is diving really deep into risk management, non-insurance type stuff to help loss control and things like that. But from a branding perspective, we did not. We sometimes come across, the larger brokers, and they have a well-known name, at least within industry and things like that. And it's a way for us to kind of formalize what we'd been doing anyway into kind of a formalized practice, and also kind of show it to the client as, this is exactly what you're going to get. And it helps us a lot because, I think one of the biggest challenges for a smaller agency trying to write larger business is the branding. Is that, like, who are you? We know who these guys are, but you're a name we've never heard before. And so we have to be even more diligent to make sure that our sort of materials, our marketing materials, and also our process and things like that sort of kind of reflect, what we do and what our value proposition is.
Yeah. And it's a value added service that they're not going to get from the agent down the street, right?
Yeah, typically speaking. And honestly, for most of where we're targeting business, it's kind of stuff that's probably a little small for big brokers, but they write it, and maybe a little large for a less sophisticated, smaller agent. And in that area, I think they're not getting it from either end because, the big brokers aren't giving those resources really to the smaller accounts. And sometimes the agencies that are kind of just a small local that don't do these things, they just don't have these resources. So I found a long time ago, a lot of times it's great to have the resources, but it's important to tell people that you have the resource, because you can't just do these things behind the scenes because then they don't, your clients don't. You're doing great for the client, but they don't know.
Yeah.
And so you need to kind of put out, hey, these are the things that we're doing for you.
Yeah.
And I think,
and that's funny because we talk about marketing in terms of, when we think about marketing, oftentimes we think about just client acquisition. How do you get more clients? But when you think about marketing, certain things that can help them first, and that's something we talk a lot about on this show, is how do you give first before you even ask for anything in return? And it sounds like Save 365 is a tool that allows you to do that and help them first before you even ask for anything. Yeah,
for sure. I think we definitely offer a lot to a prospect, even if we decide not to engage and go to the next step and write their business or whatever. We do a lot of consulting on the front end that usually they haven't seen before. And so worst case scenario, they're coming out, a little bit with a better understanding of their insurance program. Hopefully we get the business, but if we don't, they're still in a better position than if they didn't talk to us at all. So,
yeah. And hey, sometimes it takes a couple of years to get that business. So it's not, it's just not right now. Right.
Exactly. I'd say the probably less so nowadays, but definitely historically, the vast majority of my business, especially the larger accounts, has been on second year. We've kind of improved a lot so that we're better at positioning for that first year. But it still happens that a lot of it happens in second year. I'm joined by my dog here. So.
Oh yeah, mine's asleep over here. we're in the same boat. What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Portuguese water dog.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've got a Boston Terrier who loves to just sleep all day.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, she does. She's like to jump. That's why I was in case she jumped on the keyboard or something.
I know. It's happened before. He'll bark in the middle. Actually, the last podcast I recorded, he just started like he had not picked up his squeak toy since we've been here for like a month, and that was the moment he decided to play with it. So I was like, "Come on, man, let's go." Oh, geez. We talked off air a little bit about you mentioned the wedge, and I was like, "Oh, Randy Schwantz, yes." Tell me about y'all's use of the wedge. How did you decide that was a tool you were gonna pick up? And you also mentioned some similar concepts from my buddy David Carruthers too. Tell me how you guys got into that.
So it sort of evolved originally is the wedge. So I don't know. When I first got into the business, I was kind of like, how am I going to do this without really understanding what I'm, so I went on a quest for, I got designations, I did this and that. I really needed to have knowledge because I'm not the kind of person that likes to just BS and, pretend I know what I'm talking about. And that led me to the book, The Wedge, Randy wrote, I think probably sometime in the 90s. And so my first few years of in the business and writing business, I kind of used a sort of, for lack of better, like a bastardized version of the wedge, like
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of,
Customized.
right. I used kind of half of it, but I wasn't doing certain parts of it, like the takeaway, and then when I started hiring producers, because for a long time it was really just the principals were producing business. Now we have 4 producers, and then a couple other people that actually also help us produce. But
Yeah.
and I needed training for them. I needed to because I found it was very difficult for me to succinctly give them what they needed in a short amount of time. So I needed sort of help with that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so I read the wedge. I'd used it pretty heavily, so we decided to engage with Randy with the wedge, and we use his software as well to kind of help us strategize for large accounts. And then David Carruthers, he kind of came into the and Killing Commercial because I was very impressed by his marketing, and I felt that at the time that was sort of a weakness of ours. We were very good at closing business. We're very good at once we're in the door, doing a really good job, but we weren't necessarily getting into the doors we needed to get into, or at least not as many as we wanted to. And so that's where he kind of came into play and to help assist our marketing. So and we use a kind of a hodgepodge of different things that is kind of works for us, particularly with some of the niches that we have. Leading with workers' comp works for construction. It works for certain things. It doesn't necessarily work for a technology, consultant, or let's say, what my main niche is franchise gyms. Workers' comp is less than 10% of their insurance premium.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of have a lot of different tools put together in your toolbox to tackle these things.
I'm always curious how people get into particular niches. How did you get into franchise gyms?
It was a complete accident.
That's what most people say, right?
Yeah. A couple of our, it's funny. I had all intention. I actually studied environmental science, and I had all intentions of going after environmental type stuff, and that never really happened. We do a little bit of it now, but I had an account that had a pretty big marketing firm that I handled their insurance, and they had thrown a bunch of different ideas of franchises they wanted to buy. I actually quoted, Mr. Clean car washes and something called Frozen Ropes, which is like baseball training and things like that. And they finally settled on, hey, we want to do this Planet Fitness, and we're going to do it in Florida. At the time, I wasn't even licensed in Florida, and I'm like, I actually resisted. I was like, like this is, So I was like, all right, and I started, and so that kind of is the genesis of it. And then over time, they've made a couple introductions, and we also on our own decided to really focus because, I really deeply understand the market. I understand their issues. And so we decided to go out and market to gyms in general. And generally, we're looking for franchise owners with multiple locations, but we do handle single location gyms and things like that as well, too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, most of our niches, I'd say have been by accident. I'd say the one that's not is I do have a mechanical contractor within construction niche. I did start from the very beginning, just focusing on that, but it's because we had similar accounts that, I kind of could piggyback off them to sort of develop my own niche.
Sure. And is Salesforce playing a role in any of those niches, like developing those niches further? Because you had mentioned that before. I was just curious.
Yeah. So Salesforce, we're pretty new to it. We're honestly just getting going in the last couple months. But even before that, we did use some other email automation and stuff like that. And yes, for automation in general, and will be Salesforce, I think more has definitely helped us to get in some doors that maybe we didn't have as easy of a time. And I think that really helps us play a general branding, kind of to get our name in front so that when we show up there, because a lot of times our business comes in one of two ways. Typically, it's an introduction to the client, which is probably the most common, where we ask our current clients, we happen to know that they know somebody, and so we ask them to introduce us. But the other way is we still knock on doors, and when they've, sometimes they might not even know why they recognize your name, but because you've been emailing them over time, it does help that make those conversations a little bit easier, because you're not coming in as a complete stranger. They're like, oh, I do remember, what you've sent me and that kind of thing. So,
it makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Yeah.
Are you ready for the rapid fire round, my friend?
I am sure. Well, I guess
Awesome.
I'm probably not ready, but I'm ready as I'm going to be. So.
Well, buckle up. No, it's not bad. It's not bad. What's one piece of technology or software that you can't live without?
I would say, well, at the most basic, my phone calendar. It's probably it's probably not very fancy or novel, but I'd say that's probably one I can't. I was just kind of joking before that I can't. I have to always look at it to see what I have next, or because I can't keep that in my brain. But I would say beyond that, I'd say our our software that helps us, the Bignition that helps us develop our plan to attack the larger commercial clients. That's really become key to our success in the last couple of years.
What's it called?
It's called Bignition. It's actually Randy Schwantz's
Oh, that's I was
software.
like, I
Yes.
recognize that. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it used to be called something else, iWin, and
Okay.
in the past year or so, I think he changed it to Bignition. So
And so
I
tell me
probably
about it.
just
What
started getting into that.
specifically, what does it do?
So it helps us. It does a lot of things. You can email. You can do a lot of different things. But what it helps us kind of run our sales meetings in such a way that it's really productive. It's not just people are, what are you working on? Well, it helps us develop a real strategy so that when we're going into accounts, we have a really kind of buttoned up, idea, plan of attack, and we use it for a variety. There's a variety of things that it does, but that's kind of the overall effect is to prepare us for appointments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, that's unique. And with the niches that you described, like it sounds like you guys need that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say the larger the business you're going after, the more time you need to spend strategizing on how you're going to pursue that business. It's
Yeah.
probably not as useful if you're going after Main Street business and stuff like that. That it's more of
Yeah.
a churn stuff.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. What's one book that you're reading right now or that you've read recently that you'd recommend?
I would say I just finished a book. It's not Never Split the Difference, although I did read that and I liked it.
I literally
Um,
just finished that too.
yeah, did you?
Yeah.
That is one I like, but I actually just read another one that's also a hostage negotiator.
Really?
That's it was really kind of funny.
You're
And
typecast, man.
I'll think of it by the end of, but I can't think of it. It's something about emotional intelligence. But basically, the theme of the book is that you need to put your ego aside
Mm.
and basically. I'm gonna completely screw it up, but I'll give you the name of the book as soon as I think of it.
Yeah, yeah. No worries, no worries. Um, here's a challenging one. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, like I know other people are telling you the same thing, but you're not listening to them. Stop focusing on the smaller business. You need to just maybe more specific to me. And there's ways to tackle small business, but with the
Yeah.
resources I had, don't really go after, and don't be afraid to go into larger businesses, because oftentimes you're a lot more prepared than you think you are, and your
Mm.
competition's also not as good as you think it might be.
Hmm.
And I was very surprised the first couple accounts that I had to defend against. That was kind of the genesis of it. And then also, when I was going after new accounts, that sometimes, I don't mean this, there's a lot of, there's a lot out there when it comes to change and agencies purchasing another, and there's a lot of accounts that are being underserviced. And
Sure.
so don't assume just because it's a large account that you're going to not be able to write it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sounds like you're taking some wisdom from David Carruthers.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe you gave him the wisdom. I
No,
should give
no,
you
I didn't
credit.
give him the wisdom, but we have been doing it a while. But yeah, I definitely didn't give it to him. Yeah.
Okay, I got a kind of random question for you. Unless you've listened to this podcast and you know what's coming, but I usually trick a lot of people. If you had the choice, now I know it's hot outside right now, but put that aside. If you had the choice between eating a hot bowl of soup, delicious soup, or gourmet hot chocolate and marshmallows, what would you choose?
gourmet hot chocolate and marshmallows.
Nice. Love it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to send you some from our friends at Mountain Mallow. We gave that as a gift to our employees during COVID instead of in lieu of having our annual employee appreciation event. We sent that out and gave them some well wishes, but it was very, very well received. So I'm going to send some to you.
I'm excited. I love chocolate. So
Yeah, I bet your kids will love it too.
Yes. Actually, it's going to be trying to get some, without the kids drinking it all. Will be the thing.
Yeah, exactly. You have to sneak it in there. For listeners of the show, if you go to mountainmallow.com and enter in the code GROW BIG, as in grow big or go home, you get 15% at checkout. So it's our little gift to everybody else too. What's one final piece of advice that you would leave with our audience on anything that we talked about today?
So I'll tell you, Ego, Authority, Failure is the name of the book. I just thought of it.
Ego. I knew you were going to find it. Ego, Authority, Failure.
Yeah, by Derek Gaunt.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
It's an excellent book.
Awesome. You saved yourself.
Yeah. As far as advice, I'd say, and I say this all the time, and I don't think people really listen to it, but the number one, I'd say, real catalyst to my success has been getting involved in the industry, particularly in the Big I, and early, and talking to agents. Don't be talk and make friend to agents. There's a lot of business out there, and you're going to gain much more by talking to other agents about what they do than you're going to lose. I mean, I can count on one hand the times I maybe gave up business because it was a friend or something like that. It's really there's a lot of business to go around, and I'd say investing in your industry is the number one thing I would say.
Amen, brother. And I neglected to say at the beginning too, the reason I reached out to you in the first place, you caught my eye because the Independent Agent magazine actually featured you as one of their in their independent Declaration of Independence section. So that was cool, and that's where I learned that you kind of made your way into growth through doubling down on niches. So much respect for you there. But you're right, and you also talked about in that interview with them leaning on your industry association. So super important. I'm glad that you said that.
It's like there's nothing else that compares for me. Everything else is kind of a distant second in how it's helped me. So
yeah, that's awesome. Where can people connect with you if they want to reach out and follow up on any of this?
Yeah, so I'd say LinkedIn is the easiest way to connect with me. It's just Hal Soden. I think I've CPCU or whatever after, but if you put Hal Soden, there's not many of them. You might find my dad, but I'm junior, and I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to them too.
So click on the better looking one, is what you're saying. Sorry, Dad.
Yeah. And also write a note, because I do get a lot of connection requests that are nonsense. Just say, if you could just say, hey, like listening to you, or just so I have some idea of who the person is and they're not just somebody trying to sell me something.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I could do a whole episode on like how I engage or don't engage with people, how they connect with me on LinkedIn, right? Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. Hal, thanks so much, my friend, for being on the show. Stick around for me, but thanks a lot for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Absolutely. For everybody out there, grow big or go home.